Valerie Bertinelli once felt untouchable. For nearly a decade, she was one of the most familiar and trusted faces on the Food Network, building a career that felt stable, until it suddenly wasn't. What makes her story so striking is how it ended. After years of loyalty and success, she reportedly received the news through a single message. No conversation, no call, just a brief, cold ending to a long professional chapter. Behind it was a shifting industry that was moving in a new direction, focused on younger talent and tighter budgets. But to understand what was lost, you have to go back. Valerie Bertinelli was born on April 23, 1960, in Wilmington, Delaware, and grew up moving constantly because of her father's job. That unstable childhood built both resilience and adaptability, traits that would define her entire career. At just 15, she became a star as Barbara Cooper in One Day at a Time, earning critical acclaim and early recognition. She went on to roles in Touched by an Angel and Hot in Cleveland, and received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2012. By the time she entered the Food Network world, she was already an established television icon. In 2015, she launched Valerie's Home Cooking. The show stood out for its warmth and simplicity, real recipes, real stories, and a personal connection with viewers. It ran for 14 seasons and helped define her presence on the network. She also co-hosted Kids Baking Championship with Duff Goldman, earning praise for her natural empathy and screen presence. Over time, she became one of the network's key personalities, eventually signing a multi-series deal in 2018. Then came the industry shift. In 2022, the merger of Discovery Inc. and Warner Media created Warner Brothers Discovery. The restructuring that followed led to budget cuts, leadership changes, and a reassessment of existing talent contracts. As old leadership exited, so did the stability that supported long-standing deals like hers. When her contract expired, it was not renewed under the new direction, marking the quiet end of a major chapter in her Food Network career. The timing of the contract expiration mattered because it landed right in the middle of a major shift in leadership and strategy at the Food Network. New executives, under pressure to cut costs and reshape the channel's identity, were now deciding which personalities fit the future and which belonged to an older era. Valerie Bertinelli, known for warmth, real cooking, and emotional storytelling, represented exactly the kind of content that was quietly being deprioritized. And that wasn't an isolated change. It was part of a much larger turning point for the Food Network itself. The end of the Food Network's golden era. When the Food Network launched in 1993, its mission was simple: teach people how to cook. Shows like 30-Minute Meals, Good Eats, and Barefoot Contessa defined the channel for years, built on hosts like 30-Minute Meals, Good Eats, and Barefoot Contessa. The focus wasn't just entertainment, it was education and trust. Viewers tuned in to actually learn something. Over time, that model started to fade. Competition-based formats like Chopped and Beat Bobby Flay became cheaper to produce and more reliable for short-term ratings. Instead of learning step-by-step cooking, audiences were now watching timed challenges, mystery ingredients, and elimination rounds. By 2022 and 2023, many longtime viewers and food writers were saying the same thing. The network had shifted from teaching cooking to manufacturing food-related competition TV. The emotional connection between host and viewer, the idea of learning from someone in their kitchen, was slowly being replaced by spectacle. Even Bertinelli later acknowledged this shift in 2024, agreeing in a public discussion that the golden era of instructional cooking television on the network had largely passed. And behind that industry change, her own personal life was reaching its most difficult point. In the summer of 2022, she filmed seasons 11 and 12 of Kids Baking Championship back-to-back, during what she later described as her year from hell. The timeline behind that statement is heavy. Her first husband, Eddie Van Halen, died in October 2020 after a long battle with cancer. They had divorced years earlier, but remained deeply connected, and his death brought complicated grief. Her second marriage to Tom Vitale was also breaking down at the same time. The divorce, filed in 2021 and finalized in late 2022, was later described as emotionally damaging and toxic. So while she was filming a children's show built on warmth and encouragement, she was privately dealing with grief, divorce, and emotional exhaustion. Then came the professional blow. In January 2024, Bertinelli confirmed she wasn't returning to Kids Baking Championship and revealed the news had come indirectly through a text message rather than a direct conversation. For someone who had been a trusted face of the network for years, the way it was handled felt just as significant as the decision itself. She later addressed it on Instagram, calling it a business decision tied to restructuring and budget cuts, but also making clear the communication felt dismissive. The response from fans and celebrities like Khloe Kardashian and Mark Hamill was immediate, with many pointing to a larger trend: the quiet disappearance of the Food Network's original identity. That leads to the bigger question: what gets lost when a channel stops peaching and starts competing? Her shows, including Valerie's Home Cooking and Kids Baking Championship, were built on warmth, trust, and routine. Viewers didn't just watch, they formed habits and emotional connections. Competition shows, by contrast, rely on drama and fast engagement, and over time, the network shifted heavily in that direction, under corporate pressure. So her exit didn't just feel like a cancellation, it felt like the loss of something familiar in viewers' everyday lives. The real tension is simple: short-term ratings versus long-term trust. Budget cuts explain the decision, but not the emotional impact. By 2024, Bertinelli had moved into a new phase, finalizing her divorce, starting a new relationship, releasing her cookbook Indulge, and exploring work beyond traditional TV. One thing became clear: her audience wasn't tied to a network, it was tied to her. In a media landscape shaped by mergers like Warner Bros. Discovery, personality-driven creators are often replaced by cheaper formats, even when audiences remain loyal. The core lesson is simple: networks value formats, but audiences connect to people, and that connection is what gets lost first. At the same time, the Food Network's identity continued evolving under the pressures of corporate restructuring and shareholder expectations. The kind of educational, personality-driven cooking shows that once defined the channel increasingly found new life elsewhere, on streaming platforms, social media, and creator-led spaces, where the bond between audience and host is more direct and less dependent on traditional television structures. Bertinelli had spent nearly a decade building that kind of connection inside a system that ultimately shifted away from supporting it at scale. The institution moved on, but the audience relationship did not. That gap between where networks go and where audiences stay is where the next chapter always forms. Valerie Bertinelli didn't just leave a show. She left behind a built-in audience that continues to follow the person, not the platform. And in today's media landscape, that is often the only form of stability that still lasts.